Yes.
I would not.
No.
Yes.
Eddie Hamilton?
Yes.
The answer is yes, they're only supposed to have 10 square miles for DC and whatever they need for the military, not the rest.
Justin Preble, yes.
Robert Leeds, except for military reservations, yes, it should be returned to the state.
Tom Jones, I already stated that we're fighting to get the portion of the land returned already. I'm definitely for it, yes.
I think it's a little more complicated than that. I think that it needs to be looked at on a case-by-case basis, and the system to do that should be streamlined. So I guess it's kind of a quasi-no.
I'd say yes through negotiations.
Nathan Atkins, former Army. My question is for Mr. Jones. Mr. Jones, to be a city that provides the ability for all of its citizens to work effectively, right? We need a city that moves its citizens around. How would you improve the transit in Las Vegas?
Well, once again, I think that's a local issue, but I do agree with you that we do need a transit system. I'm, from areas that had, I was from Ohio originally, we had a tremendous transit system. I've traveled around, I see, went to a lot of cities in Europe that had great transit systems. And I think it's a shame that, especially Las Vegas doesn't have a great transit system, but I do not think that's a federal issue. I know that you're probably thinking we need federal funding and we need something like that to get the transit issue going, but I don't think it's a federal issue.
This question's for Rob Lauer. This question's for Sharron Angle. Under the Constitution, the Congress sets the rules and regulations for the United States military, including rules of engagement. Over the last week, we've seen Russian fighter jets buzz U.S. naval ships in the Black Sea. They penetrated our airspace with naval bombers, nuclear bombers. They've actually come close to knocking out one of our planes out of the sky this last week. They carry a missile that can just, an anti-ship missile that can sink a battleship aircraft carrier from 300 miles away. What would be, if you're in the U.S. Senate, what would your rules of engagement be for our commanders in the field, on ships? Should they shoot down an aircraft, a Russian aircraft, like Turkey did, if they penetrate that security envelope around our ships?
The present administration has weakened our military, and the rules of engagement are just an outflow of that weak position that the administration has taken, and truly it has undermined our military in so many ways that they are afraid to use the education and the expertise that they have. They also have second-guessed their commanders in some ways, and I think that what we need is a very strong administration, a strong Congress, a strong Senate that supports our military. We can have strength if we show that we are strong, and we can have peace through that strength. And so I think that's my position, is anything that can strengthen our military and strengthen our position in the world and withdraw from this weak position that we have been seeing over the last few years. I think that's the place that we want our senators to stand, is fully behind our military capabilities. And I would like to say fully behind our military. There is one thing in the Constitution that I am certain that the federal government should be funding, and that is our common defense, both here and abroad. That is the military. We should be supporting our men and women who are fighting now, and those who have retired who need our help with things like health care. They need choice and they need reform to better facilitate their needs. And so I support our military in those ways, and I support them being strong, and I support their leadership to use their expertise to give the best counsel when it comes to rules of engagement.
Was that a yes or no? Would you shoot down the plane or advocate for that? It's a yes or no question, really simple.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm not a military person, but I'd say if that guy says they're in our space, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Robert Faust, this question would be for the whole panel. It will be a yes or no question, and we'll start with Mr. Sawyer. Would you support, what is your position on the restroom situation in this country? Who's allowed to use a restroom and who isn't? That's true too. Let me rephrase that. Do you support same-sex bathrooms or as birth certificate?
Birth certificate.
I think this is a state issue that they need to figure out.
I'm against the sharing of bathrooms. I believe whatever gender you are physically, that's the bathroom you should use.
That's my position also. We had transgender bathrooms in the military in Iraq, but I believe they always segregated men from women, and I think it should be that way today. Unless they put a lock on the door and both sexes can use it, that's fine, but not transgenders to women use men's bathrooms, men use women's bathrooms. Thank you.
There should be a separation of born, but based on born gender.
I think you should have men and women's bathrooms, but the hard part is if they're dressed, whatever they're looking like, how do you tell?
The answer is leave it up to the state and local. However, we must be aware that there are many pre-births over there, so we've got to keep an eye on that. I told my wife, if the daughter goes to the bathroom, go with her until such time.
Okay, I'm just a little confused. Was this supposed to be a yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, so would you just tell me the question and I'll answer yes or no?
The question is, do you support genderized bathrooms? In other words, a man should go to a man's room and a lady should go to a lady's room.
Yes, common sense. There you go.
I believe you should be able to use the restroom of whichever gender you identify with.
I'm a strong supporter of LGBT rights, and I think an individual that's an LGBT person should be able to use whatever bathroom they choose.
I think we need to respect the rights of transgender persons. They also need to respect and be courteous with those who are using the restrooms as well. It's a difficult answer, really. It's not yes or no for me. If there's a unisex bathroom, use it. Where there are people who might be offended, then I think it's up to the individual to understand whom they might offend.
Yes.
Okay. Write a book on that one.
Hi, this is Ron Q. This question to all the candidates is going to be a two-way questions. First one's yes, and the second one's a magic number. Do you support term limits in U.S. Senate? And what's the magic number for the term map? Thomas Sawyer first, please.
Support term limits, let's make it twice whatever the limits are. Because they're all different.
2 terms for Senate, 6 terms for House.
I support term limits, and I think it should just be 2 terms, whichever agency.
I do support term limits. I have a platform that deals with that. I believe that 12 years should be the limit. I think federal judges ought to declare what party they are registered to voting. And I think that Supreme Court judges should serve for 12 years only. And all of those, none of those run into constitutional prohibitions.
Juston Preble, no to term limits.
Dr. Gumina, I think Mr. Leeds might have read it on my website. 12 years, I believe, is adequate for anybody who's running for Senate or House of Representatives, as well as the Supreme Court. The only exception would be 2 additional terms for 8 years if they make presidency.
The answer is yes. Eddie Hamilton here. And, you know, either 12 or 18 years, and I think the Supreme Court justices and the federal court, they should be subject to reconfirmation, maybe not term limits, but reconfirmation after 12 years. We need term limits.
Definitely term limits, and I'm struggling between either 6, 8, or 12 years, because as you know, after 4 years, that's about how long it takes for lobbyists to make that wonderful relationship before they're bought and paid for. So that would be definitely a discussion to have.
I do not support term limits. They can override the will of the people.
I would support term limits with the further conditions that the candidate be barred from any further public office. I think that's the only thing that would make a difference. So I would say 2 terms for Senate and the equivalent length for House. And as far as Supreme Court, I think it's great to have a lifetime limit for that. So that's fine as is. Thank you.
12 years is enough for either senator or member of the House of Representatives when they finish the 12 years. No crossover and no service as a lobbyist.
The people of Nevada have already spoken on this. They have said term limits. They have said that the Senate should have 2 terms, the House should have 6, that's 12 years. I agree with the people of Nevada. We, of course, didn't get to term limit our federal officers because of the violation of the one man, one vote rule, but if we were able to get a constitutional amendment that applied to all the states, then that would be the limits, and that's what the people of Nevada have said.
Tipitar Army veteran, political activist. My question is a foreign policy question. I'm going to test all your foreign policy geography notions. So the House of Representatives and the Senate has to vote or recognize new nations on a global community scale. This will be a simple yes or no question. I'm going to give you a list of nations, and you will tell me yes or no if you recognize them or not. So the first, here's a list, I'll read them off. New Caledonia, Bougainville, Benito, Anguilla, Catalonia, Quebec, Somaliland, and Kyrgyzstan. Yes or no, would you vote to recognize these nations in the global community as a representative of the United States government? Mr. Sawyer.
Yes.
Recognize them for what?
The United States, your role would be to vote as a member of representatives to recognize this nation as an official nation in the global community, thus establishing trade communities, military alliances, and so on.
Well, the UN does the recognizing of
No, the
nations.
UN is not a governing body of the United States government. Your job is as a representative of the United States Senate. So as the country of the United States would recognize them officially.
No.
I'm really not sure what I would do in that case. I'd have to say no.
I'd have to look at the conditions that would be incurred with that decision. I'm not that familiar with it.
Juston, Preble, they have an organized government, yes.
Dr. Tony Gumina. It's kind of an interesting question because there's actually, depending on which listing organization, there's anywhere from 190 to 212 countries listed as recognized functioning countries. The United States actually gives foreign aid to a huge number of them, and it's a global vote. It's a yes or no whether or not all these countries will get it. Should we deal with these countries? Well, I think that actually needs to be changed, and the Congress needs to actually vote individually per country based on whatever they submit as their organization body and how they're going to function, whether it's democratic or communist or socialist or whatever. And then it needs to be decided on individually per country and voted on by all the House and the Senate as the determination of whether or not we should recognize and or have financial dealings with each country.
So that's a no.
That's a no.
Got it.
Okay, I don't really know the answer to this. And I think what happened is that the State Department normally does this job, but you don't know those countries could be under terrorist control. So I don't know the answer. We have to look into it. The problem is that once we recognize something, the State Department will go bonkers, go crazy, spending billions of dollars building embassies. And then we get more illegal aliens coming here. So the answer is I don't know. We have to look into that country one by one.
What was the last 2 nations that you mentioned?
It'd be Somaliland and Kyrgyzstan.
Okay, currently those nations that you listed are viewed globally as peaceful nations. So my answer is yes.
Thank you.
if the people of those nations voted for separation from their parent country and if they had a democratic government in place, then yes.
I would agree with Jared Williams. Thank you.
I have to ask a clarification. Did you list Quebec?
No, I did not. Wait,
I'm
sorry, I did, yes.
Yes, you did.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Quebec's a province of Canada.
Right, but it is, no, yes, go ahead.
The answer is, for me, the rest, if they are duly recognized, yes.
No.
Thank you.
Okay, so we are now at Mike Edwards, who will have the last question, and then we will go into closing statements, which I'll get into after this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. Mike Edwards, United States Marine. I have two-part question. The first one is, does anyone here have any experience riding a motorcycle on the streets of Las Vegas? The second part of this question, a statement is, a safe rider follows the acronym ATGATT, all the gear, all the time. Unfortunately, here in Las Vegas, a helmet, jacket, boots, pants, gloves, while stopped at 115-degree heat, with the sun beating down, you can lead to heat stroke and exhaustion, which is even more of a detriment, very, very dangerous. In fact, the only way for a rider to keep cool, motorcycles are air-cooled as well, in the desert, is for the rider to keep moving. We're putting together some lane sharing laws like they do have in California. And it's not for people to go 100 miles an hour splitting traffic, trying to get ahead. It also will, most of the fatalities here in Las Vegas are from distracted drivers rear-ending motorcycles at stoplights. It would also stop that. So my question is, do you support lane splitting laws in Nevada? And if not, why not?
Well, that's not a yes or a no, but I can't give you a qualifier based on that yes or no, so.
The first part of the question, do you support a lane sharing law? And if not, why not? Obviously that's not a, but, so I can't ask my question, Mr. Martin, I'm confused.
Fair enough. Please answer as quickly as possible. Thank you.
I'm pretty sure most of them won't say, so if it's yes, then they can move on, okay? Thank you.
You want to start
with whoever you like.
Tom Sawyer?
Well, I'm not sure of the question, but
Lane sharing for motorcycles.
Okay. I think for safety for all these motorcycles out here, one way or the other, so I guess it's yes.
I haven't ridden a motorcycle. I believe in four wheels. I believe in safety, but I believe the government needs to get out of the intrusion into people's personal lives and what they do.
I don't think it's a federal issue, once again, and I do believe that it would have to be looked at. I believe in safety, but I don't believe the government should be making rules. I think we have government overreach as it is.
I believe it's our safety regulations that are in existence. I'm not that familiar with the problems that this gentleman has had, so I have to abstain from saying yes or no.
Juston Preble, yes.
Dr. Tony Gumina, I've had a little different experience in this because I've actually dealt with people that have been in motorcycle accidents and things, working as a physician in the trauma center here at EMC. I do actually believe all the gear all the time does work. The hard part is it's definitely not cool in the summertime. Since I'm also a fan of MotoGP, they make leather coats that actually have a cooling system in them that if they could be a little lower price, I do believe more people would buy them. Can you put the decals on them that look as nice as your coat? Oh, that might be a little difficult initially. But I do believe, because I'm also a bicyclist, that I think having a single lane is really important. So if they could do something, at least on the freeways, because that would be part of the federal government, the states would have to control the smaller roads. But I do think any type of safety issues that minimizes accidents, because not only are we seeing more motorcycles, we're seeing more not mopeds, but the scooter type things, and they're leading to more head injuries because there is not a mandate for helmets. And so the answer to the question of that is yes, I believe.
Eddie Hamilton. I'm also a Liberty candidate in this Senate race. I used to ride motorcycle. I ride scooters right now. So I'm in favor of that special lane so long as it's well regulated. So safety is the utmost when you're driving anything. So I support your point of view.
Yes, and I do agree with Tony, it is a state issue, but yes.
I've never ridden a motorcycle in Las Vegas, but I made it a video game. I don't support lane sharing, and it is a safety issue, but I would be open to a motorcycle lane.
Hi, Bobby Mahendra. I've ridden a motorcycle without a license, so I did that illegally. But regarding your question, I think that your people that ride motorcycles are well aware of the safety issues. And I think that if you guys feel you want to do lane sharing, I'd be okay with that. I don't have a problem with that.
Where safety for bikers and other vehicles on the road can be preserved, managed properly, of course, yes.
As has been pointed out, this is a state issue. As a state candidate in 2010, I rode in the Searchlight on a motorcycle. And as a state legislator, I got the law passed for the blue taillights so that you could be seen more visibly. I don't know how many of you have that blue taillight, but it's legal, and I got that law passed. I also signed on to the helmet law, allowing you to not have to wear those helmets, but make your personal choice. So I think these are, as they are state laws, they should go to your state legislature, but I'm very supportive of bikers. Thank you.
Okay. Well, we got through 2 rounds of questions. We're doing really well. Thank you for the civil tone and everything. Much appreciated. Thank you, panelists, for the great questions. And now, by popular demand, and also I think it's a good thing, closing statements. Given the number of folks, I have to limit it to 1 minute. We're running out of time. We started with Sharron Angle for opening statements, so why don't we start with Thomas Sawyer for closing, and you have 1 minute, and I have to be very strict about it. Go ahead, Tom.
Okay, thank you again, and let's see, I would just say that in Senate is we need to pass laws that make sense. Get rid of some of these laws that don't make any sense. Again, is we've got people that want laws that they're not going to follow, or they want somebody else to follow, but not them. So we've got to watch to see what we're doing. Again, we've got to make sure that as we move about, that we make, again, laws that go with our Constitution. We've got to find some way to make sure that these federal judges and Supreme Court judges follow the Constitution instead of making up their own laws, which has recently happened. I'm not sure how to go about that, but I'm sure that there's some way to do it. And again, we've got to stop some of this bickering that's going on between the Senates and the Congress on both sides. I just feel that there's nothing going on that is in the federal government that we're looking at one side, or we're looking at the president.
Tom Heck, I appreciate you guys taking the time to talk with us. I think JFK said it very well, that decisions that are made should not be focused on being Democratic, nor should decisions be focused on being Republican. The decisions should be what's best for Americans and what are common sense decisions. Too much of our time, we're fighting over the decisions, whether they're Democratic or Republican. I want business decisions based on business needs, business interests, market interests, but basically common sense decision making. These problems that America has are not hard problems, but the politicians put together the laws. They don't put metrics on the laws. They don't sunset the laws. They don't close programs that aren't working. So we need to make a common sense approach from a business standpoint and a marketing standpoint. And I thank you for having me here. Thank you, and God bless America.
Hello, this is Tom Jones. I'd like to talk about 3 issues that were brought up. The Nevada land issue, which I believe Nevada definitely owns a portion of our land as outlined in the United States Congressional Act of 1866 and affirmed by the legislature in 1982. We should claim our land and we should have it. The second thing I'd like to discuss is the Supreme Court decisions. I agree with Sharron Angle that the Supreme Court is not to make law. Their duty is to decide whether law is constitutional or not. A lot of their decisions have been wrong. Remember that they said that black slaves were 2/3 of a human being. We know that was wrong. So that we cannot rely on saying that a Supreme Court ruling is law. It has to be made by our legislature. Third thing I'd like to address is the two-party system. The two-party system has been control of our country for over 100 years. And I want to ask you, how's that working out for us right now?
Time.
Anyway, I'm asking you to vote for me and to endorse me. Thank you.
I'm Robert X. Leeds. I've traveled widely in this world. I've learned that our country is now called the 4G country. Get in, give out, give up, and get out. I want to see that reversed. The world has a sophomoric, or Americans have a sophomoric attitude that we shouldn't be the world's policemen. Let me tell you something. Since time immemorial, someone has always stepped forward to lead the world. If it isn't Genghis Khan, it was a Hitler or a Mussolini or a Stalin or a Putnam. I think we have to be the most powerful military force. We've engaged in 150 military missions since World War II, and we haven't really won a war since then. I think it's time that our military be established to fight a two-war front and to win. And I don't think we should engage in any military conflict unless we subscribe with our full might and force and not stop until we're victorious. No truce, no temporary halt is sufficient. We fight till we win.
My name is Juston Preble. If I am elected, I'll make sure that I have a staff that clearly outlines everything I'll be voting on, whether or not it's constitutional, give me a cliff notes on what the underlying issues are and exactly what the pork is and whether or not we can accept that or not. Secondly, I'll make sure I show up and I do the job and make sure that our individual freedoms are protected and our Constitution remains our founding document.
Dr. Tony Gumina, since we're here with veterans in politics, I just kind of want to let you know what my thinking for veterans is. First, I know there's a lot of disabled veterans here, and I thank you for your service also. But my concern is what I see in the office here, because I actually see a lot of widows. And one of the things that happens is when a veteran dies, their GI Bill and their ability to purchase a home under the Veterans Administration goes away. So I think there should be a survivorship benefit, at least to one child of that service member, so that they may use the GI Bill that would have been entitled to the serviceman that passed on, and use the VA benefit to purchase at least a home. And that's what I'd like to do for veterans if I'm elected. Once again, you can see me at tonygumina.com. Thank you.
My name is Eddie Hamilton, to the viewers on YouTube there. I am the Republican candidate for the United States Senate. I'm a strong supporter of Donald J. Trump. And also, in answer to a question earlier about keeping promises, I have a promise to increase jobs in Nevada, that I can, deliver that promise within 1 week in the U.S. Senate. That is based on getting 5 million additional young tourists here. The Constitution, 26 amendments said when you're 18, you're an adult. So I will write a law that will say, based on the Civil Rights Act 1964, if you're 18, you cannot be denied admission to any adult venue, such as the clubs on the Las Vegas Strip. That will bring 5 million tourists here, millennials. It'll create 30,000 jobs and $400 million in budget revenue. Secondly, I support Donald Trump because he won also the caucuses here in Nevada. He's entitled to have a United States Senate candidate who will become his go-to guy in the United States Senate. Okay, thank you. I'm against illegal aliens, against amnesty and citizenship for illegals.
You're so funny. Denise Davis, first of all, I want to thank the panel, all of you for being here and taking time out of your Saturday morning and giving us this platform. And while I think it's important to get to know people, to ask them questions, it gives you the insight of their character, who they are as a person, what they stand for. But let's not forget something. Even though we call it an election, we're running for office, we're actually applying for a job. We're in a job search right now. I'm asking you for this job and the opportunity to hire me. And once hired, it's the voice of the people that matters. I mean, I might say something you don't like, but that doesn't mean that I'm not going to still represent you. You see, my job as a public servant is to take your voice to Washington, D.C. So my own personal agenda, it's moot. It doesn't matter. If I'm doing my job right, I'm taking what you want.
Time.
So, thank you.
My name is Jarrod Williams. Thank you again for inviting me to your forum. Just want to say that for 30 years now, we've just heard we just need to keep cutting taxes and we just need to keep making business more free and we'll have more jobs and more prosperity. And all that's done is funnel the wealth up, and we've gone through housing crises, we've gone through job crises, cost of living has gone up, but wages have not. So I think we need to reassess that. We need to provide 6 months of at least 6 months of paid family leave. We need free quality daycare. We need to have free universal health care, free college education. We need pro-LGBTQ equality. We need a candidate who's pro-women's rights. We need someone who's pro-equal pay. And we need an open border. And I thank you again for inviting me.
Hi, this is Bobby Mahendra representing the Democratic Party. I'm going to do something a little bit different here. I read the vision statement for veterans in politics, and one of the main things that you guys talked about on your website was having an anti-corruption policy. I was a little disappointed not to hear a single question about how much Kool-Aid each candidate up here is willing to drink. So the problem that you have in politics is, for example, sequestration happened, 10% of the funding gets cut for vets. This occurs because everybody that goes along with the party has to do what the party says because they're all drinking the Kool-Aid, basically raising millions of dollars from different places. And I don't think that you're ever going to get a fair shake on it. So if you take a look at my policies, we've now passed up every single person on this panel. I'm the #1 candidate on Facebook. I have over 15,000 likes. We're building a very strong campaign, and I think we're going to end up winning the Senate race, even though we don't have the millions of dollars. Appreciate the time. Thank you.
Again, I'm Dr. Bill Tarbell. They say that the devil is in the details. Regardless of the details, whatever it is that I might be facing as a senator, I'll keep 3 principles in mind. My commitment to our Constitution. I will remain constitutionally faithful no matter what I'm looking at. Whatever legislation or policy is put in front of me, I will be constitutionally faithful. Second, I will be there to serve. I'll remind myself constantly that my task in the Senate is to serve the people of Nevada, and through them, the people of the United States. Third, I will stay connected. I will not sever myself from the people of Nevada. Every sector of this state, every person in this state will be able to contact me at all times. My presence in the Senate will be your presence. That's a promise. Thank you.
I'm Sharron Angle. I'm a lower taxes, less government regulation, constitutional, more freedom Republican running for U.S. Senate. I want your vote. I'm running on 3 principles: freedom, privacy, and security. I want to represent you as I've always represented you, providing a courageous, informed voice that will not bow to pressure, that will support strength through peace, and will bring a strong voice to a Senate seat that needs to have a strong voice in favor of freedom and we, the people. Thank you so much. I want your endorsement, and I'm glad to be here speaking with you this morning.
Okay, well that concludes our U.S. Senate forum, and I want to again thank our sponsors, our panelists, the volunteers, and of course our candidates. This is